In 1994, in the dark and gloomy crypt of this Hungarian church, a priest made an amazing discovery. Hundreds of beautifully decorated coffins were found, and in them, mummies, remarkably preserved by the climatic conditions of the vault.
When they first opened the coffins, they expected to find skeletons. They were absolutely shocked when a significant proportion of these people were so beautifully mummified.
Their faces are fascinating to see, but more remarkable still is that here we have mummies that could one day change medical history.
The body of this 95-year-old woman could be a stepping stone to fighting a disease which is killing millions of people today.
Anthropologist Mark Spiegelman is on a quest to get to the bottom of this ancient mystery. What is the secret of the mummies from the crypt? The river Danube carves its path across Eastern Europe. It flows through the Hungarian capital Budapest and the nearby town of Vats. And the parish church in Vats' main square is where our story begins. Father Yusuf Zavets tends to the daily priestly duties just as he did a decade ago when, during routine church renovation, a structural problem was discovered. Close examination of the exterior wall, directly beneath the steeple, revealed some alarmingly large cracks. Mysteriously, the thick, solid walls sounded hollow in one section. The bricks were knocked through, revealing stone steps descending into darkness. Father Zavets went down to investigate. It was the entrance to the old crypts, which had not been used since 1838. The priest went on into the shadows, not knowing what he would find. He was about to make an incredible discovery. Stacked one on top of the other from floor to ceiling were over 300 beautifully painted coffins. Detailed inscriptions dated the interred to the 18th and 19th centuries. When local archaeologists opened up the coffins, they were met with a shocking sight. Most contained not skeletons, but mummies. Their ghoulish faces, now contorted in death, are startlingly well preserved. Hands, although dry and shriveled, have veins protruding and fingernails still intact. A stash of mummified bodies like these is a treasure trove to Australian anthropologist Mark Spiegelman. He is an authority on ancient diseases and pioneer in extracting ancient DNA. So as not to miss out on this unique opportunity, Mark has come to Hungary to investigate these mummies for himself.
It's amazing because you can see the real person. The level of preservation is just stunning. And you realize, I mean, this is not just a mummy, this is a person.
The stunning preservation wasn't intentional. These are accidental mummies, created by the constant temperature and through draft of dry air in the crypt into which they were sealed almost 200 years ago. But there was another essential ingredient, which Mark identifies on a trip to the museum in Vats, where the coffins are kept.
This is a beautifully preserved coffin. It's actually of a 2-year-old child. And maybe this contains one of the clues as to why the Vats bodies did mummify. These coffins were made of pine, And many of the bodies, in fact nearly all, were sitting on some pine shavings. Now pine is a very interesting product. It contains a terpenoid which is antibacterial and has antifungal actions. And this may be the reason why the Vach mummies are so beautifully preserved.
Most of the mummies are now stored in the Hungarian Natural History Museum in Budapest, under the care of archaeologist Ildikó Pap. Here, Ildikó and her team are studying the mummies in detail, a rare opportunity to piece together a picture of life in Vats 200 years ago.
They are very interesting for the anthropology because from the remains we can recover the life of the people who used to live in the small town of Vats. You can speak about what they ate, what was the stature of them, how heavy they were. And they offer an excellent opportunity to figure out what kind of diseases they had in the past.
After their discovery, Ildikó set about a thorough investigation of the mummies. And it was her suspicion of tuberculosis as the likely cause of death in one of them that prompted Ildikó to call on Mark's expertise. He conducted a thorough forensic examination of this mummy to check for the presence of TB.
This is a very famous mummy, in fact, because it's the first. It's the one Ildikó Pap first suspected of having TB when she did a CT scan. And we found, when we biopsied this mummy, that he did have TB. He had open TB in his lung. And as a result of the study on this single person, the whole Hungarian mummy project developed.
The Hungarian Mummy Project was set up in 1997 to investigate in detail this amazing phenomenon, the survival of TB DNA in ancient cadavers. Pure, unadulterated TB, free from contamination by antibiotics and modern chemicals. These mummies could become vital in the fight against TB today.
We can learn what this bacteria was like 200 years ago. We know about disease today. What's the change? And maybe by learning how disease changed, we can also, on the basis that we have to know our enemy, learn how to treat it.
Tuberculosis devastated Europe during the 18th and 19th centuries as populations became increasingly industrialized. Huge numbers of people lived in close contact with each other in highly polluted environments. Bacteria were easily passed around, and TB was a real killer. Symptoms included weight loss, fever, chest pains, and the coughing up of blood. The sufferer would also have an extremely pale complexion, hence the disease being known as the White Plague. A disease that's just as devastating today, killing 2 million people every year.
It is the biggest single killer that is due to a bacterium, and that is despite all the antibiotics. And in fact, it's becoming a bigger problem than ever because many of the cases now are multi-drug resistant. It means we haven't got a treatment anymore.
With 168 mummies at his disposal, Mark needs to whittle down the candidates for investigation. He heads to the local museum, where the articles found in the coffins are catalogued and stored. But rosaries, jewellery and other possessions aren't going to reveal much. More valuable treasure lies in the accounts written at the time.
One of the useful things about this whole collection is that we've got these wonderful records. For instance, one of the records is that of Szymon Antal, director of the School of the Deaf. He died 1808. He was 36 and he died spitting blood. Now that to me is a classic sign of tuberculosis.
In other cases, it is the physical appearance of the mummy itself that raises Mark's suspicions that there could be tuberculosis DNA present. As TB can cause severe bone deformity, this hideously misshapen figure is a prime example. Her compacted thorax and arthritic fingers immediately arouse Mark's suspicions.
And then there's this.
An X-ray reveals the severity of her deformity. Her S-shaped spine is completely contorted.
Show me the second again.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Is there anything to see here? There is a difference, look.
The X-rays also give them an idea about the effect of TB on the lungs.
I mean, I've never seen anything quite as gross as that. Look. Right, there's no question she had collapsed vertebra. There's no question she had TB.
So another mummy that might contain ancient TB DNA. As part of the initial investigation, Mark takes tissue samples, or biopsies, from 168 of the mummies to send for analysis in the UK.
These are all the samples we've taken since I've been here. And don't forget to give me a letter for customs.
Yep.
They won't accuse me of smuggling human remains out of Hungary without a license.
Despite traveling in a battered old suitcase, these pieces of 200-year-old mummies are going on a journey to the very cutting edge of medical research. Here, at the University College London, the samples are in the care of microbiologist Helen Donoghue, an expert in extracting DNA.
Oh, there's some. Oh yes, beautiful. Really are, amazingly.
Helen applies a complex process to extract the DNA from these 200-year-old tissue samples.
I end up with a solution which is full of DNA. It's going to be full of the human DNA from the individual. It's going to be full of DNA from any organisms from the environment. And if the individual had tuberculosis, I hope that there's also some TB DNA.
Once she's extracted the DNA, Helen will be able to check for any signs of TB. Amazingly, of the mummies that were tested, 55% show signs of TB. For Mark, this seems a very high proportion, given that they were living in a relatively healthy place.
It was a middle-class population. It was well-fed, it was well-housed, it enjoyed excellent air. What were the causes?
If Mark can answer this, he could be on the path to finding a modern cure for an ancient disease. Today, the local people of Vats walk the same cobbled streets as their forebears did, past the same churches where they worshipped, and they eat fresh produce bought from the same market square. Inspired by the discovery of 168 mummies in an ancient church crypt, anthropologist Mark Spiegelman is on a quest to find out why so many of them carried TB.
The tuberculosis epidemic during the Industrial Revolution was the result of bad diet, bad air, wars, all sorts of stresses. None of these were present in the Vag of our period. These people had a good diet, good air, no wars, no stress. Therefore, there had to be other reasons for why there was so much tuberculosis in this population. What were the causes? We believe there is genetics involved.
So in Vats 200 years ago, there were perhaps people who were genetically susceptible to TB. At the same time, given that TB is a highly infectious airborne disease, there must have been people who were genetically resistant to it.
Genes work in many ways, but basic thing is they produce something. It's usually a little protein. Now, with tuberculosis, the bacteria, in order to infect you, has got to take certain steps. It's got to get inside your cell. It's got to start producing toxins which kill that cell. So if you've got a protein which somehow blocks the entry of the bacteria, then you can't get infected.
So among the people of Vats, there were those who carried TB, but who also carried in their genetic makeup a protein that kept it at bay. Mark needs to find out which of the mummies were resistant to take him closer to his goal. Luckily for Mark, Vats's parish records document more than just births, marriages, and deaths. They also give details of where people lived, in which streets, and what jobs they did. By detecting groups in which TB was killing some members and not others, Mark will then be able to focus his attention on the survivors, those who may possibly hold the key gene. Using the records, he and Ildiko have been able to put together one such family group. For example, in this family, 2 of them died of TB and 2 survived.
So that's Katie, and she...
Yeah, and she was 2.5-year-old when
Right.
she died, yeah.
1801, the father
Yeah.
died 5 years later, 1806.
Yeah.
And when we found out 2 of them had TB, we're now interested in knowing why did not only 2 of them die from TB, but why didn't the other 2? They were all living together. They were eating together, at least 2 of them were sleeping together, probably all 4. So why only 2? And maybe there is a genetic reason for it, and that's what we're going to be looking for soon.
An ideal case would be someone who had caught TB, but whose body was able to fight it off. One mummy in particular has caught Mark's attention.
Now this is an interesting story. Anna Barron, who according to the dates written on the coffin, she was 95 at time of death.
Anna Biren was surrounded by people dying of TB, this highly contagious disease, but lived to a grand old age. Mark is beginning to get an inkling that she could be the crucial case he's been searching for.
She obviously didn't die of TB. Look at her, she's nice, plump. There's no reason to suspect that she died of any infection, and certainly not of TB. Other kids and people in this town at the same time were dying at the age of 5, 10, 15, 20 from TB. Why didn't she die? Why didn't it infect her?
This could be Mark's golden opportunity to find the remains of someone who had once contracted TB, but who had recovered from it, and unlock the genetic puzzle. Ildiko and Mark have arranged for an X-ray of Anna Biren's body at the local hospital.
Where's the taxi?
The 300-year-old passenger is chauffeured to the National Medical Center in Budapest. This shriveled, papery mummy must be a most macabre sight for the medical staff.
Can you center it on the chest? We're particularly interested in doing the chest X-ray because if there is TB there, that's the most likely spot. We're going to spot any signs of it on X-ray.
This way, Mark will be able to get a closer look at Anna Biren's lungs.
That's the end of the rib. You see, it's not easy.
Anna's chest X-ray is displayed on a computer monitor.
It looks like it's had a bit cut off.
Mark is looking for signs of calcification on the lungs. The body's natural response to many diseases, including TB, is to build up a hard shell of calcium salts around the infected area.
Costal cartilage somewhere. But this was the area where I thought there was a calcified nodule.
Evidence of a calcium deposit on Anna's lungs could indicate that she had suffered an infection, possibly TB.
See, just there, that's a calcified lymph node. You can see it's rounded. There is one piece there which looks very suspicious, and that's the one I feel we should be biopsying to see if it's got tuberculosis.
A biopsy is the removal of a small piece of tissue that can be taken away for closer study.
And we go through the diaphragm into the thoracic cavity.
An endoscope, a tiny camera on the end of a probe, can be inserted deep into the mummy to guide Mark to the right area.
So we're going to biopsy the pleura. See the biopsy forceps?
He needs to remove a piece of tissue from the exact spot on the lung where the X-ray showed a calcified lesion. This, together with the samples from the other areas of potential infection, such as the abdomen, will be sent to Helen Donoghue in London. If she can find any evidence of TB, Mark's investigation will have made immense progress. Things don't look good at first. Initial tests show no signs of TB DNA. The final sample is far more encouraging.
Right, well, the most important result is the one I've got here, this white spot. That shows we've got a positive result for TB DNA. That actually came from the left pleura, the lining of the left lung from Anna, and so I think she had a latent tuberculosis infection.
So Anna did have TB. In Anna, Mark has finally found what he's been looking for: an incidence of tuberculosis in someone who, unlike those around her, fought off the infection. He is convinced that she must have within her the vital gene that blocks the onslaught of TB.
What happened was, at the age of 5, let's say, she got infected. Her TB didn't flare up and kill her. She walled off the infection, and maybe for 90 years of her life she carried the TB bug in her body. It didn't affect her, and it didn't infect her.
Despite contracting TB, Anna's body had been able to fight it off, because hidden in her genetic makeup was a natural resistance to the disease. If this gene can be isolated and replicated, the spread of TB worldwide could grind to a halt. This elderly lady could never have known her potential importance to future science.
Her future legacy could be that she could help us unravel the causes of TB and the genetic reasons why some people get killed by it and other people heal themselves without the aid of any modern medicines.
Mark's discovery of latent TB in Anna Beeren's mummified body could be the first amazing step towards a cure. His aim is to identify other examples within the mummy cache of people who'd had TB but who didn't die from it. Other specialists will isolate the rare magic gene that prevented the onslaught of TB in these people. The hope would be to reproduce this gene and create a long-lasting and effective treatment of TB. Mark believes that the future is genetic medicine and that the Hungarian mummies will play a vital part.